Welcome to the Nebrasketball. Our Huskers win 68-49 against Northwestern, and Nebraska gets their 22nd win of the year, now at 22-3, 11-3 in the Big Ten. Northwestern drops to 10-16, 2-13 in the Big 10. It's Nebraska Hour Nebrasketball Hour brought to you by Nebraska Realty Wahoo Office. And we got a great show on a Saturday. Wrong finger. On a Saturday, other finger. There you go. There's your right finger, Kaleb. Yeah, we're ready to talk about a win that was kind of a weird game, that Nebraska did the thing that they do sometimes in the first part of the game. Start slow. This time the culprit was turnovers. And Nebraska turned the ball over at a pace it almost never, ever does, especially during that first half. Yet they were able to overcome it. Really strong defensive performance in the second half. Pryce Sanford got red hot again. That didn't hurt. And you had the old Nebraska Supreme Silver team kind of close the thing out with Sam Hoiberg and Cale Jacobsen and Braden Frager, along with Bear K and Pryce Sanford. They played a big chunk of those last minutes, and Northwestern could not score the dang ball. The stat that I had from the game, Kaleb, and first of all, welcome, Kaleb. How are you doing today? Live from Pinnacle Bank Arena, by the way.
Which is fun because with the all of the alumni here, they're all filling the court right now, and we're just getting old highlights running on the big screen.
I want to be there so bad.
So
Can you just turn your camera and let me watch them?
No, I'm not going to do that. You have to watch me. They just had the shot that was waved off when it was 91-91 Nebraska at Oklahoma, where it goes like over the side of the backboard.
Jerron Boone hit that. He's there, I bet. Oh, Jerron Boone. I was watching that in my living room on a tiny little, on that little Toshiba TV that's sitting right over there, my retro vision.
I thought of you, Jack, because one of our most loyal softball fans, Mr. Buchanan, is here as
Henry
well.
T. Let's go. Henry T. Buchanan hung out with the Jack Mitchell softball experience when they had one of their the end of their season games the year before last. So,
yep.
So I just want to give this stat because I don't want to forget it, because I just figured it out, and we'll delve more into the stats later. But you want to know when the game changed? 17 minutes, 10 seconds left in the second half. Sierra Vino hits a jumper that was right after Martelli had that dunk and put Northwestern ahead at the beginning of the second half. And you started to say, oh no, okay, this is not going to be the quick turnaround. He has that jumper that is 17 minutes and 10 seconds left in the second half. So very early in the second half, Northwestern would go on to score 15 points the rest of the game. Wow. They could not hit anything. They were turning the ball over just like Nebraska was. It felt like they ran out of effort by the end of the game. But Nebraska did what they needed to do. And while it was weird and while it was not great to start, Kaleb, in some ways, couldn't be a whole lot happier with this result, knowing that they didn't have their best day for a big part of the game and still very much ended up winning comfortably.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of like the box score analysis, the conversations where it was 19 points. That's the final difference. You held a Big Ten opponent to under 50, shot really well from 3-point land, 11 of 25, shot 40% for the game. That was pretty comfortable, right? No, this final score does not indicate at all how the game went. At the end of the day, it is a W. It is a 19-point W. You are up to 22 wins on the season and still just the 3 losses. But, man, Jack, this was ugly. It was an ugly first half. It was an uglier first half today, even with leading by 1, than when Nebraska trailed by 16 to Purdue.
Wow.
It was bad basketball.
Okay. Wow, I don't know about that.
Well, okay,
I don't know about that.
Here's why.
Okay, go ahead.
So here's
the defense was much better, even in that first half for Nebraska than it was against Purdue.
Yeah, it was okay. Like, it was okay. It wasn't. I wouldn't say that it was like better or anywhere significantly better than Purdue. Offensively, it was ugly everywhere. Frager could not complete a pass while he was in the game early. Rienk was throwing it directly to Northwestern players. Jamarcus, I'm pretty sure, needed to check whether or not the ball had enough air or too much air because he continued to run away from wherever he dribbled it, or there must be a dozen dead spots wherever he decides to dribble. You have another slip and fall after a media timeout, so you got to get the towel guys out there. The offense, a lot of standing around, barely any cohesion, it looked like, and still at the end of all of that, you're winning at halftime. Like, no,
Yeah.
the offense was, if the scale is 1 to 10, was 8 to 9 points worse than what they were against Purdue, and the defense I wouldn't think was not a great improvement from that game either. It's just you're playing Northwestern versus you're playing Purdue.
Yeah.
Purdue made Nebraska pay for it in a way that Northwestern's not able to do.
And Nebraska was clanging 3-pointers for the most part. I mean, they had 5 in the first half, but I'm looking at the shot chart, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 missed 3-pointers from the not from the deep corner, but from kind of like the elbow 3-point area, all in the same spot. You got to miss there by Rienk, you got to miss by Frager, you got to miss by Frager, you got to miss by Pryce, you got to miss by Pryce, you got to miss by Frager, and you got to miss by Pryce. All of them. Mm-hmm. That spot. In fact, there was only 1 3 made from that spot. Pryce hit 1 there, but they did not do well in that area. And then you just had kind of Berke had some issues. Everybody did. It was like the ball. It did not look like this team has played at all the way they take care of the ball. There was one point I looked at the game with like 10 minutes out of the first half, 10 minutes left, and I don't remember what the turnover number was, something like 8 at that point, and I was like, okay, they've definitely had fewer turnovers in a game than they have during the first 10 minutes of this game, probably multiple times this year.
There was a run where Nebraska had 7 turnovers in less than 7 minutes, where it was just constant lazy passes up around the top of the key, stuff that is not typical for this team. And that's the part where you look at it and it was like, that's why I say this offense was much worse, even without the difference that we had on Tuesday. Just nothing was flowing in a way that looked like a Fred Hoiberg coach team, or not just a Fred Hoiberg coach team, but a team with players like Sam Hoiberg out there and Cale Jacobsen and Pryce Sanford and Rienk Mast. It was ugly consistently. And then in the midst of all of that ugliness, you had guys starting to get gun shy. Mm-hmm. You had Frager, like I realized he'd missed a couple, but it was like, man, you've got to take that shot if you're open in the corner. Same with Cale Jacobsen. Now he ends up hitting a couple in the second half, but it's like the guys that are on the floor need to be taking these shots, even if everything else is ugly happening around them. It can't be ugly, ugly, ugly. Now we're all gun shy. Because then if it's okay, now we're all gun shy, that's not going to help you get out of that funk.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just looking at the turnover run that I think you were talking about from 14:50 to 12:45 in the first. Mm-hmm. So 2 minutes, 25 seconds. Nebraska had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 turnovers, and then got a 6 at the 10:35 mark. Lawrence bad pass, Lawrence turnover, Rienk bad pass, Rienk bad pass, Frager bad pass. 3 of them on bad passes.
Yes. It wasn't. These weren't the turnovers where it's like, oh, you tried to do a lob and it was which is a bad pass, but like it goes out of bounds. These were a lot of live ball turnovers you had over the course of the game, where Northwestern ends up with 9 steals. They had just take that first half, because the second half, it's a little bit different in the way things play out. Northwestern had 7 steals on 10 Nebraska turnovers in the first half. So those become live ball turnovers. Northwestern's able to get runouts with that, and that's why they had, where was it here? Just the 5 fast break points, but they were able to do well in the points off of turnovers. There it is. It was 12-5 in the first half. It ends up being 27-10. for Northwestern, the points off of turnovers. They did more with that because Nebraska just kept handing them the ball.
Which is interesting. When Nebraska's had success when they've had above average turnover numbers, what usually you've looked at, you then read that number, and somehow they don't result in a lot of points for the other team. Right. I know we've had that a bunch of games when we've looked at it, but that was not the case today. The problem was Nebraska Northwestern couldn't score. I mean, at the end of the could not score whatsoever. Yeah, I counted it. Of the first half turnovers, 7 of them were bad passes.
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow. 7. I mean, you almost had more incompletions in a basketball game than you did in a football game.
Yeah, it was.
Those kind of numbers.
And then the one of those others that you had in that stretch for Lawrence was the push off, which was interesting that he got called for that. Northwestern got called for that as well. Both of those calls in the, I guess you call the first quarter of the game. I don't know how often I've seen that called in a game, like a Big Ten game, let alone 2 of those called where there's the push off. Because, Jack, I'm thinking of plenty of other instances and other games Nebraska has played where somebody driving to the basket and getting the forearm push off would have changed a lot of calls down the stretch.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's not to say Jamarcus does it quite a bit too. So like he got called, he does it quite a bit. This isn't absolving him of that. Just there's a lot of other guys in the league that do it too.
The weird thing about that is they were aggressive on that call, and then yet at least in the first half, I don't know if this is true in the second half, but the first half, man, they were letting all kinds of contact go inside.
Yeah, you could do anything you wanted.
I mean, they were, and I prefer it that way, to be honest, but they were letting both teams were taking advantage of it at some point too. I mean, I think it was fairly consistent.
Yeah, it was. And this is one of the games where if you're a Nebraska fan, you wanted it called that way inside because eventually you were going to be able to beat down Northwestern athletically and physically. You don't want it called like this if you're playing Purdue or Illinois or Michigan or maybe even Wisconsin right now. Like you want to be able to get those calls. But Nebraska, more physical, bigger, stronger than Northwestern, and it shows up with a 40-24 rebound advantage, 13-6 on the offensive glass. Like Nebraska was the bigger team to chase down the rebounds, so it worked out in Nebraska's favor for it to be allowed to be more physical inside.
By the way, 2 of those offensive rebounds were Pryce Sanford just cleaning up Sam Hoiberg's junk on a missed layup on both sides of the court.
Berke cleaning up his own junk.
Oh yes, Berke cleaning his own junk at that point. It was really interesting because as I look at the shot chart and the broadcast team, I can't remember who the color commentator was for the game, but the broadcast team kept talking at the beginning about how Northwestern wanted to attack about in the free throw line range, and they really got a lot of jumpers from that area during the first half. Singleton had one, Kropp had one, and Jordan Clayton had one, Jaden Reed. Like the entire team had a shot at that point. But the difference was? Martinelli couldn't make his, which is crazy because Martinelli in that first game, the first half in Evanston, I was like, I don't know how you stop this guy from scoring.
Yeah.
And he could not get on his game tonight.
No, and remember going into that game where it was Martinelli was either one of or the top scorer in the country. So it was like, ooh, okay, you're going to go to Welsh Ryan.
It was like you couldn't stop him. It was so it was like, annoying.
Anytime he had the ball, you're like, okay, his sliders are all the way up. Anything he does, he's going to spin. He's going to get to the free throw line. He's going to make weird shots. He just didn't do that. He only ends up with 11 points tonight. He's the only Wildcat to get into double figures. Like that. Wow. That's a massive.
He was still their leading scorer. Oh my gosh! I thought Reed was their leading scorer. Jeez,
no, you're right. Martinelli scored 9 in the second half.
Ciarvino had 9. Yeah.
And you talk about Reed. I was watching in the first half. Cale Jacobsen got under his skin immediately. Like immediately. I think Reed was trying to drive baseline. It's on the near side over here. And right away, Cale locked him up. And he turned, like after he passed it, Reed turns, looks to the official, does the old hands up in the air, like, hey, are you going to help me out? And then eventually there's a turnover or something happens. And before you can get the ball to Nebraska, Reed is over there having a one-on-one conversation with the ref. Everyone obviously starts booing him. But I'm like, dude, Cale has been on the floor for like 30 seconds and is under their skin immediately.
that is a good moment to preview that we will have in just at the end of the show, or toward the end of the show, we will have our Ryan Anderson Memorial Player of the Game. Ryan Anderson is not dead. I was thinking about it for the whole last 5 minutes of the second half, who I was going with, because I am debating between 3 players and I'm still undecided. So you probably got a preview there with who you were talking about, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of see where you go and think about this. Maybe as we break down the box score, I will get a little bit more of a sure thing feeling. Before we focus more on the second half, I do want to thank our title sponsor. What a year to be our title sponsor. There you go, Nebraska Realty. What now? I don't have this in our notes. What division or what location is this? Do you know?
Wahoo!
Thank you. Okay, yes, that's right. It is the Wahoo division. Perfectly located between Lincoln and Omaha for all of your Lincoln and Omaha realty needs. We're talking ag. We're talking residential. We are talking land auctions. These are a group of local Nebraskans. They've been in the business together for altogether like 75 years. Not any one of them, but altogether. They got a lot of years. They got a ton of experience. They've had a ton of success, all in the top 10 within Nebraska Realty. And best of all, they're huge Nebrasketball fans. In fact, Kurt from Nebraska Realty, you can see his cell phone on our screen if you're watching on TV, if you want to give him a call and get hooked up with Nebraska Realty. He was giving me updates from the end zone.
Oh, sweet.
Noon game, and he texted me I think he texted me at about 9:45, I think it was, and he was like, yeah, it's almost full in here. Come on.
You know what? Like, there's the one side of it, Jack, where it's oh man, we went and closed down the bar. No. Those people are cool. Yes. Give me the people who open the bar for a noon basketball game.
I mean, end zone is wild. I still have not been there for a game this year. Well, I've went in and left a couple of times. Fingers crossed at least once before the season ends. But back to Nebraska Realty. We don't need to advertise the end zone. They're doing good enough without us, although you're welcome to sponsor. But like I said, Dan handles ag through estates, buyers, sellers, great auctioneer. And yeah, that's the thing, Caleb. People hear Wahoo and they're like, well, I don't live in Wahoo. Doesn't matter. Like all of Eastern, they've got properties all over Eastern Nebraska.
No, just like all the folks who are in the awesome ID Club Discord, and they're talking. It's not just one little part of the state. It's not just Omaha area. It's not just Lincoln area. Then you hear Wahoo. It's just not Wahoo. It's all across the state, and they'll take care of you for whatever those needs are. And you give those guys a call, and they're like, you can just call and ask them questions. Maybe you've got an idea, and you go, I don't know if they work with this. Just call them and ask them. At the very least, you're going to be able to talk some Nebraska ball for a little bit.
That's exactly right. 402-443-3415. That's that office number if you want to jot that down, or if you're listening to this, rewind it, write it down, and give them a call next week and ask them those questions. Or I guess just talk Nebraska basketball if you want to do that. Nebraska Realty Wahoo office. Okay, Caleb, I think we fairly gave a critique of what happened the first half. I think we broke it down pretty well. Let's now talk about the fun part of the game, which was starting, like I said, about 17 minutes left in the second half when Nebraska allowed Northwestern to score a total of 15 points after 17 minutes and 10 seconds. I don't know. Like the obvious clear difference in the game was that Northwestern wasn't lighting the rim on fire in the first half, but they couldn't do anything in the second half. Was that the biggest catalyst to everything that happened, in your opinion?
Yeah, usually when one team stops making shots, the other team gets hotter than they've been the whole game. That can cause a bit of difference. You talk about that stretch, though. So not just when there's 17 minutes left. I look at about 5 minutes after that, where Northwestern had taken their last lead of the game on a free throw, and you're just like, ugh. Nebraska can't pull away. You started to think late in the first half, you're like, oh, Nebraska's going to be able to pull away. Then they have that 5-point possession because you get a corner three, and then there's a foul after the shot because Cale Jacobsen runs through a guy's chest, and they end up having a 5-point possession. You're like, okay, there's just nothing's happening, even though Nebraska will go on these runs, a 6-0 run, 8-0 run. And then you got to this part in the game where you're right when there's 17 minutes left, but it still goes back and forth. Here's where it really starts for me. With 12-11 to go, Cale gets a layup, followed by Berke rebounding his own shot and putting it back up. Sanford hits a 3. Sam goes 1 for 2 at the line. And then, like, within a couple of minutes after that, you get back-to-back threes from Cale Jacobsen. You get a timeout with 8 minutes and change left from Northwestern. And for me, like, the game was over at that point.
Yep.
At that point. And it's still, you're only up 9 points. It's still single digits.
I know, but you could feel it.
It was over. At that timeout, that was the last-ditch effort. That's a volleyball match, and it's 23-16, and you take your last time out. Like, it was over. There was nothing Northwestern was going to do. And from there, they only made 3 more shots the rest of the way, including a layup with 17 seconds left.
Yeah, a couple of things on that. From that moment on, I just looked, Nebraska had 1 turnover before garbage time, so they cleaned that up. That was basically the point when they really cleaned that up. They had 1 bad Sam Hoiberg pass with 8 minutes left, but other than that, no turnovers. Actually, after 14:47, other than that one, while Northwestern had in that time 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that kind of flipped for Nebraska during that time. And then you look at the shot chart for Northwestern in the second half, Kaleb, and they made, I'm going to pull this back up here. They made, I believe it is 2 shots that were outside of the lane. 2 shots that were outside of the lane during that time. Crazy. Like they had nothing. Yeah, that's right. They had Reed hit a 3-pointer. I think that was right at the beginning of the second half, if I recall.
Yeah, just over a minute into the second half.
And then Martinelli had a 15-foot jumper, and that was it for their scoring outside of the lane.
Yep.
I mean, not that their scoring in the lane was a lot. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 field goals in the lane. So 8 total field goals, and that's how you get to 15 points. Plus, they missed free throws during that game as well, and that definitely didn't help them as well. Meanwhile, like you said, you start turning on the defense, and the offense heats up, and that's exactly what happened for Nebraska. They ended up hitting during the second half alone 6 3-pointers. And you had Pryce hitting most of them, but you did have Cale make what? Cale made 2. Hoiberg made 1. Made 1.
1 for 1.
Pryce made 3, I think, out of those. Frager couldn't find his. I thought Frager hit 1 at one point. Maybe not. Maybe
Frager made 2 threes, both of them in the first half.
Okay, so he made a few in the first half. And you know, the interesting thing about the second half, what was different in terms of Nebraska's rotation, and I talked about the old classic Nebraska Supreme Silver lineup that has the 3 Nebraska guys, usually plus Berke and Pryce. It used to be Connor Essegian. That when they got rolling with those guys and didn't have Rienk Mast in the second half, that's kind of that point at that 12-minute spot that you were talking about, I think, Kaleb.
Yeah, that was the it was a tough night for Rienk. It was tough. You had that stretch in the first half, and ultimately he ends up with 3 points, 1 for 4 shooting, 1 for 1 at the line, grabs 9 rebounds, but has 4 assists, but it's the 6 turnovers. It's the 6 turnovers
and almost all bad passes. Almost all bad passes.
Yeah, and like I understand some of the intent where those passes of like, oh, a guy cut here, but like so often those passes were, yes, if somebody cuts here, but they're going into the lane where there's 4 defenders.
Yeah. Now he executed one that was a highlight pass too.
Yes.
He did the I don't know who it was cutting into the hoop, but it might have been Sanford, I think, and it was a great pass. That's kind of what he was trying to do, I think, on a lot of those other ones, but there usually was traffic there, but Pryce got completely loose on that one. What do you know about what happened to Rienk before the game? I don't know how many people even know this, but we were live on our subscriber show. Josh and I were. Yeah. And he read the tweet that Rienk hurt his hand and was screaming in pain. And I freaked out live on our show. And then about 3 minutes later, he said, "Oh, it sounds like everything's okay." And so it was kind of a roller coaster of emotions. What do you know about what happened there? And I know maybe Fred has said something after the fact.
Yeah, and I haven't watched his post game.
I'll see if I can find anything.
But yeah, it looked like he kind of jammed his thumb and he got it wrapped up and he went right back out to warm up. So it didn't seem like it was something that was going to affect him too deeply. But if you come into a game after scoring I mean, a week ago he scored really, really well, and he's kind of the hope was after that midweek break, and you come back to these games that he's going to be able to get the scoring going, and he comes back and makes just the one shot and has 6 turnovers. I'm curious if any of that had to do with the thumb on his non-shooting hand, if that was him trying to direct stuff. Like it didn't look like it from here. I'm just trying to fill in some of the gaps.
Yeah. Did he have it? Was it in a wrapped sling, something, anything?
It just looked like it was wrapped a little bit. I mean, I couldn't tell from up here how much of it was like, when somebody's hurt and you can kind of watch them when they go to the huddle and they're holding on to something. It just didn't seem like that was a thing.
I didn't notice it either
throughout the game. Yeah.
I just wondered, since it was kind of passing that was throwing him off, but a lot of his passes are kind of the one hand variety, like over his head. That save was nice in the first half.
Yeah.
Did that's behind the back kind of save pass thing. So yeah, I guess it was interesting. I was watching the Big Ten Network post game, and Chuck DeCourcy was on there, or Mike DeCourcy, I mean, and he talked for about 8 seconds about how Nebraska had a good game, and then he kind of went in on Mast. He was like, he was tough on Mast, and then he was like, and we don't know. Well, he didn't really play a whole lot the second half, but they appear to be better with him, and sometimes they've kind of done that with him, even when he's been completely healthy. So I don't know. Do you make anything out of? I mean, look, he obviously had one of his best games of the Purdue. He was solid down the stretch, as I understand it, and Rutgers, he was really solid. So there's no reason for concern, is there?
No, not for me, because this is if you hadn't had the stretch of like 2 months where he doesn't score 20 points, and you're like, okay, you're getting Pryce heater, you're getting Braden heater, Jamarcus heater, somebody's doing something, and you're sitting him down and resting him here and there. It's not a concern for me, because at the end of the day, you got what you needed from everybody else, and you got the win. And Fred has shown, hey, if someone's not playing great and other guys are playing good enough, and the game's not in doubt because everyone started to pull away, you go ahead and you just rest him and you say, all right, wasn't a great outing. I still don't, like, even with the 2 made threes, I didn't think it was overall a great outing for Frager. Like, there's multiple guys you can go through and be like, this was not a game that you go through and put on the highlight reel. But when speaking specifically about Mast, it's not a concern. It's just okay, it was an off afternoon, and now you reset for Iowa City.
Yeah, it has become so typical of this team that you've got two guys who are surprisingly off, 2 guys who are really on, and then one that's kind of in the middle. It feels like as long as you've at least got that balance, you're usually going to be okay in most games, and someone always seems to pick up the slack. It's crazy because like every player has played every role in that equation. the 2 guys who are hot, the 2 guys who are not.
Yeah.
And this time it was Rienk and Frager to some degree, I think, on the not side, and then it was Pryce and Sam, and you could argue Cale Jacobsen too, although his was primarily defensively. I thought, well, let's okay, here's what I want to do. I want to run down the box score before we pick our play of the game, because that might impact me and how I do it. But I guess just anything else generally about the second half and what you saw. The only thing I was just going to say is, Sam Hoiberg was doing Sam Hoiberg things the entire second half. Just finding a tiny crease in there and driving in and getting the ball in, doing what should have been the pick six. He said, by the way, it was hilarious. They interviewed him after the game on the court, and they were like, hey, what exactly happened with that? And I can't remember. I think it was it Crop that? No, I can't remember who it was. Who was guarding him at that? Oh, it was Page, I think. Yeah, Page was the one who was going up with him, and he was like, I just saw him dunk on the other side of the floor, and this is what Hoiberg was saying. He's like, I just saw him dunk on the other side of the floor, and I was like, man, that guy can jump. And so he was like, so I think I over-adjusted because I really expected him to be getting up and getting that. And so that was Sam's explanation for making that. Otherwise, just a great classic Sam Hoiberg pick six. But beyond that, steals everywhere. So I Formation just mentioned on the chat, he almost had a 4x5 with over 5 in 4 categories, 14.7 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals during the game. Hitting threes again. What did he end up with his 3-point shooting?
Just 1 for 1.
Just 1 for 1. Okay, well, that's enough.
Yeah,
that's enough. And so I was just he drove the bus in the second half. But you've also got to, when we talk about this player of the game here in a second, you got to talk about Pryce, because goodness sakes, he ended up having 29 points.
It was a quiet 29.
Was that a quiet 20? Somebody said that on the chat too. I don't.
Yeah. So he had 11 points at halftime with 3 made threes. He ends up making 3 more in the second half to get to 29 points. Also 6 rebounds in the game and only 1 turnover. When you're listing off the guys from the game, if you only had 1 or 0 turnovers, that was definitely really good for you because the team had 18. But it just seemed like even when he was heat checking after he hit those 2 early. Like, he hit those 2, and then it was just forever, and you're waiting for another 3 to go down. But he just kept finding a way to get open. The offense, especially in that second half, was running in a way to operate and get him open better than in the first half, where you talk about Rienk with the save. You had so many hustle plays in the first half from this team. One where you have a guy on the floor, throws it to Pryce, who is also down, and then he flips it up to Berke. And you have that, but guess what happens on the other end? You have a lazy pass immediately, and it's a steal. And it's like, how do you balance getting so many outrageous effort plays and then just pure laziness and offense with no flow? How does Nebraska get out of that? Obviously, that's not what we saw when things were really clicking in the second half. And when those things were really clicking in the second half, you also get Pryce open for more of those shots where he's able to go get 29. I almost tweeted this out, but then I was trying to write my game story so that we could get to our post-game quicker. But it was an exclamation point layup from Pryce Sandfort, because Sam, who had missed his layup, is again in transition, and he jumps and then turns and drops it off for a wide open layup for Pryce Sandfort. And it's like, oh, okay, that looks really good. You could have done a dunk, but just as well, you're up double digits, you're stretching it to 20 points, exclamation point layup for Pryce, who ends up making 10 shots in the game.
Yeah, 10 for 21, 6 for 13 from 3, 3 for 3 free throws. If Pryce has the potential to get hot in the game, it's hard to be out of a game, or hard to, feel like you're down by 5-7 points and it couldn't turn around really, really quickly. And then before we do our play of the game, as we're kind of giving the profiles of the people who stood out, man, I thought this is one of Cale Jacobsen, maybe Cale Jacobsen's best overall game, his career, maybe. And he almost did hit his scoring. I think he ended up a point short of tying his scoring high, which is not a lot, but I think it's 11 and he got 10. Yep. Yeah. He got 10. But 4 for 7 field goals, 2 for 3 from 3. He's been hitting threes better the last few couple of weeks, I've noticed. But defensively, he didn't have a lot of steals. I think there's only 1 on the stat sheet.
Yep.
I felt like he was involved in a whole lot more turnovers than 1 steal during the course of this game.
Yeah, he cut off driving lanes a lot, which was really impressive with some of these guards that he's being matched up with. I already mentioned earlier in the show that he was apparently in Reed's head right off the
you said that.
But yeah, he's playing so well defensively. It earns him a spot whether or not anything happens offensively. But he is coming along a lot more offensively. I actually wanted him to shoot more in the first half, because there was a couple of times where I was like, it was that part where guys were getting gun shy because of all the ugliness happening around them and the turnovers. He had a couple opportunities where I wanted him to shoot the friggin' basketball, and he didn't. I'll also say this about his 3-point shot. You have, for other guys on the team, you have Sam, who just looked like it's a prototypical 3-point shot. You have Frager, who goes to that left hand and it's really long. Pryce, it's so quick. Cale's 3-point shot, it's like it's in slow motion, but it's so soft when it comes off of his hand, and it's really impressive the way he shoots it. I don't think if Cale misses a 3, it's going to ever bounce more than 5 feet away from the basket. It is so soft and effortless the way it comes off of his fingers. And when it's going in, it's really nice. And if you can get 8 points from him a game, that's going to boost the entire profile of your offense, because Nebraska's playing in a lot of really tight games where someone's on a heater, but a couple of guys aren't. They're struggling. If you can start to get a lot more consistency from Cale in the same way you're getting from Sam, that helps raise your entire floor for sure on what this team can do. But yeah, Cale defensively is where he stood out. And then it was a cherry on top, not just 10 points, but all 10 points came in the second half, Jack.
Yeah. And that's always what I thought, that part of Cale was eventually going to come out. And especially after we saw Sam Hoiberg develop like he did, man, that is and it's sort of overshadowed by the fact that he's the coach's son. But man, the consistent improvement he has made month over month, year over year, and even in the course of this season, that guy has gotten better. It feels like every month that he's played. And I think you're starting to see that with Cale Jacobsen, which is exciting, because if he can have that same pattern that Sam had, he's in his sophomore year, right?
Yeah.
And you could argue he is ahead of where Sam Hoiberg was.
You want to talk about consistent scoring
at that same time in his career.
Yeah. If you can start to get something like this from Cale, here's Sam's scoring going back to the Oregon game. So January 13th, 11, 12, 14, 14, 13, 13, 13, 8 in the loss to Purdue, 14 today. Like, there's not a much more consistent player than what you've seen from Sam Hoiberg.
And if you can get 12, 13, 14 from him and the steals and the assists, he is so unbelievably valuable. And as iFormation says, look, if you can get 6 to 8 again from Cale too,
yep.
It's such a difference in some of these games. And so I couldn't have been more impressed with the way Cale plays. In addition to what I said about him, I think, again, he's got to get rid of somehow just this tenuousness, and you can see it creep back. And Sam had that same thing, and it's gone from him now. It was even there at the beginning of the year. You can still see it in Cale sometimes, but not always. But you talked about his shot. I mean, this guy scored 20 points a game in high school. It's not like he doesn't know how to go to the gym and make shots.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You know, I know it's at a different level, but he was not a defensive specialist in high school. Let's just say that.
No, here's where I'm at, Jack. I don't care what level it is. Putting the ball in the hoop that's universal. Especially if you're able to run it through an offense that, I know Fred called it aesthetically pleasing, I think ahead of the Purdue game, and it was anything but that for the majority of today. But when you get opportunities to shoot open shots, it doesn't matter what level of basketball you played, whether it was the highest level in Kentucky or Indiana, or you're playing Class C or D basketball in Nebraska. Like, what it is you have to shoot the ball and make it in the basket. And if you're open, you have to be able to do that. And Cale has shown that he can do that. Like I said, in the first half, I thought there were more opportunities for him to put up some of those shots. And, maybe he takes 2 more, maybe he makes both of them, ends up 4 for 5 from 3 and has 16 points. And you feel like you've extended the game much earlier than what you did. But yeah, it's just been really impressive to see the development that is happening within this program. Kind of big picture here before we kind of go through the MVP. Jack, think about the first few years of the Hoiberg era where we were just like, can you keep anyone here to where they develop? You started to get that with Delano Banton because he had to sit a year, and then, okay, he's developing, he's coming through. Derek Walker had to be here multiple years. They're sitting, they're coming through. Sam, obviously, in his 5th year now, it's the development coming up. Sam's development, Cale's development, Frager redshirting a year ago, his development. Too. Bear K getting a year in the system, the way he's playing this year compared to last year. Obviously, you supplement that with the transfer portal and a guy coming in like Pryce Sanford. But it's a giant difference in this program is the guys being here multiple years and getting better. I know we can't say that about every sport where it seems like a guy comes in, there's a lot of potential, and then they just never become that. Nebraska men's basketball is doing that from a developmental standpoint.
You can think of very few exceptions if they stayed, where it wasn't like, oh my gosh, they have considerably, and obviously this happens with age, and that's normal, but it's considerable for almost all the guys you mentioned. I mean,
even Jamarcus.
Oh yeah. Well, I was good. I was going to say you could also. I think you could throw like a Jawan Gary in there and a Bryce Williams.
Yes.
I think as well. I mean, heck, Keisei Tominaga.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was. You remember that everybody wanted him to use him early in his career, and they tried, and it wasn't going to be a thing. It felt like. By the way, I need to correct myself. Thank you to Clint. This is Cale's junior year. I forgot he played as much as he did in 23-24. He played 20 games that year.
Yeah, it was real intermittent. Did not play a lot of minutes in those games, but he was getting in. Yeah, that's right.
So he'll be a senior next year. Still, my point stands though. I think that jump Sam has taken from last year to this year from the offensive side of the ball is still incredibly significant. If they can do that for Cale next year, I think that will be huge. Okay, so we kind of gave the options, our thoughts on the different folks who could be the Ryan Anderson Memorial. He's not dead. Player of the game, brought to you by the Nebraska Half. I think I've decided, Kaleb. I've decided.
Go ahead.
I'm going Sam Hoiberg.
Okay.
I'm going to go Sam Hoiberg. Is that who you had? You had Pryce?
I'm going to go Pryce. I understand where you're at with Sam. And before you expound on that, I'm going to go Pryce. And a big part of that is, yes, you can look at it one side and go, well, he missed 11 shots on the game, but his consistency offensively to have 11 in the first half and then pitch in another 18 as you pull away for a 19-point win in the second half, also grabs 6 rebounds. He ends up with just the 1 turnover, goes perfect at the free throw line with 3 attempts there. It's just like his scoring is such an effective factor for this team and having their success. And then in his last game, he only made 2 threes, and that was his first time not getting to 3 made threes in over a month. So you look at, or at least in several games, for him to come out and have 3 already at halftime, end up making 6, that to me pushes him, even with all of the other things and all of the other arguments that I think are very valid. For me, it was Pryce Sandford as the Ryan Anderson Memorial Player of the Game.
He's not dead. And I will go. Like I said, I will go with Sam Hoiberg. And I don't know. This is such an old man thing to say, but and it's kind of demeaning to him to call it effort all the time, because let's face it, that's not about effort when you're just faster to the rim than everyone.
Yes.
And I have seen that I remember one of those plays against Minnesota. He came in from the baseline and he is fast to the rim. He sees a crease and he can get it. And I think his turnovers that he was causing, and I think he led that defensive charge when they shut Minnesota down to 15 points, Northwestern down to 15 points in the last 17 plus minutes of the game. He led the charge on that. He was continuing to get the turnovers. I think he was the key, but obviously it was great between him, Pryce, and Cale. That triumvirate of them were, I don't know how long they all stayed in together in minutes. It'd be interesting to take a look at the substitute patterns on this. But and then add in for Frager for the Nebraska Supreme Silver line. And then and Bear K, who's from Turkey, Nebraska, as well. And real quick, as we're talking about Pryce, it makes me think, Kaleb, we were just talking about that development year to year. Think of we saw Pryce Sandford for 2 years. And I watched him closely because I had seen him play in high school. And so I was always really interested in what he would be when he was at Iowa, always wishing he'd come to Nebraska. He did not ever look anything like this. He did not look like he was on the verge of what he is now at Iowa. And I understand he's a year older, but man, look at what getting Fred's system did for him.
Oh yeah, it's impressive. And I think that's something that you'll have a lot of Iowa fans bring that up about, okay, what was going on in Iowa City within the men's basketball program, was pretty much everyone being held back from their potential, despite a good season here, or some nice scoring here, a good player here or there. Overall, that's why you ended up getting a coaching change. But Pryce comes in, obviously puts in the work. He's got the size, and you get him into a system that maximizes his talents. And one of the things, Jack, that we've talked about with this offense is getting a shooter who can fill it up at a high consistency, but also the thing that Pryce does that you wanted more out of Keisei, but he was getting it kind of in the back door. where he was getting backdoor cuts, and then you wanted it more out of a Season last year, but you didn't really have the kind of get to the rim ability. It's what Pryce does, not just the making threes, but getting into the paint and scoring too, to mix it up and make it so that when you are chasing him everywhere on offense, you have to respect the fact that he can just stop under the basket and be wide open because you were chasing everywhere around the arc.
You're exactly right. It's just not the player I expected to get. I was excited about him. I kind of stereotype him as the typical Iowa 3-point shooter. And he has been even better than I expected, but he's been way better at all those things that you talked about as well. One more piece of evidence, and I just was curious. You mentioned Jamarcus Lawrence improving year over year too, and I was like, that's interesting. I never really delved into his stats when he was at Rhode Island. He was playing more minutes a game at Rhode Island than he was here.
Mm-hmm.
He played 28.8 minutes per game there. He's at 27.9 here this year. Yet he's averaging 1 more point per game. He is averaging 0.1 more steals a game. He is averaging 1.3 more assists per game, and he's averaging almost a full rebound more than that per game as well, even though his 3-point percentage is about the same as it was there. Really good, almost 40, and his free throw percentage is at 81. I mean, if that doesn't tell you, he's at very least he's become a whole lot more efficient player, and you compare it to his sophomore season here as well, and he wasn't playing as many minutes then, but like that's it's another case study in exactly what we were talking about.
Yeah, the stuff with Jamarcus that I was thinking about was look at what he did 2 years ago and the way we thought of him on the floor. It was, is he going to hit this? A lot of times you were thinking about like a second half three. And then, okay, is he going to get the ball back? Because he was really good for 2. If he got 1, he was really good to hit a second one, no matter who was on him. But kind of that was it, right? It was that for him on the offense. And he was, like you were saying, he wasn't playing as many minutes. You were definitely running a lot more through Rienk and Casey and Bryce and Jawan, and just kind of that whole group. But he develops, and yes, he went away for a year too, but he comes back and is just doing so much more for this offense for a guy that started in Lincoln, and now is going to finish his career here. It has been consistent improvements year over year.
Yep, absolutely. Couple of questions for you, for having been in the building before we get to looking ahead. What's next? Again, you're listening After Nebrasketball. Oh, I don't have the. Sorry, I don't have our stuff up. There you go.
After I only messaged you 3 different places.
Just say it. It's up now. I can't believe Josh didn't bust into my basement. Drive from Omaha. Brought to you by Nebraska Realty. Sorry. Nebraska Realty Wahoo office. Okay, so number one, tell me about, I could hear it, but tell me about the reaction when they stopped the game to dry the floor off more after, was it Jamarcus? No, it was Sam, I think, slipped.
And it wasn't long after a timeout. So, like, the benches were all out there. Sam slips. There was cheering. It was more than a Bronx cheer going on when you got the towel guys to come out. And I was like, oh, almost some immediate kind of PTSD on the someone slipping after a timeout in front of the visitors bench here from earlier in the week. Luckily, a lot less high stakes than that moment against Purdue in overtime. But yeah, there was a cheer for it. There was something funky going on, not just like out of the timeouts on that side of the floor for Nebraska, not being able to hang on to the ball, slipping on stuff. And I don't think it's anything nefarious. I don't think it's anything where, okay, you got to make sure everyone's wiping up stuff a second time in a way that they haven't done.
They said they added people this game.
Yeah, it's just it was, I don't know. It just seemed like it was unfortunate. But yeah, and in that particular instance, Sam slips. They stop play. They come wipe it all down. Yeah, the arena cheered in a way that they hadn't been able to cheer for almost all of the first half.
Yeah. And then how about what in the heck happened with the lights going out when that shot was in the air? Have you? They don't normally turn the lights off when the half is over, do they? Did somebody just press the wrong button?
Yes. Immediately to halftime.
Instead of the buzzer, the lights went off?
I don't know. Well, the buzzer, it's not a manual buzzer.
I don't know
Shag.
how this
This
technology
isn't
works.
1994 in Howells, Nebraska. They hit the button automatically
Okay,
goes
fine,
off. Okay, but yes, all of a sudden the shot goes up. I'm like, oh, there's a chance, and then the lights go off, and I'm sure some photographer was sitting over there like, this ball is rocketing at me from Cale Jacobsen, and the lights all just went out.
And I contend we still don't know that it didn't go in.
No, it didn't go in.
No, there's no way of knowing. There's no way of knowing.
There's no way of knowing.
That's there. That will be an asterisk in the record book. It may have been 3 more points for Nebraska. All right, Kaleb, Tuesday night at Iowa. It's the biggest game of our lives once again. What is the how do you look at this game going into Iowa, where again Nebraska wins this one, and all of a sudden you're starting to say, okay, maybe you do finish out. Maybe a 2 seed really is fair to be thinking about again. You lose this one, and obviously they're on the opposite end. How do you view this game?
Well, this is one of those games. So Iowa they were on a 6-game win streak, and they just lost that earlier this week with Maryland, and they're playing Purdue today. So we'll be able to see. We'll be able to 77-70. We'll be able to see a little bit of a 1-to-1 within a week of Nebraska played Purdue, and then Iowa plays Purdue today. That one's coming up in about an hour, if I'm remembering the time correctly. But when you were looking at, okay, what games is Nebraska favored in after you got through that stretch with Michigan, Illinois, and Purdue? And it was the road game at Iowa City where the metrics were all saying that's the only one Nebraska wouldn't be favored in.
Yeah.
So, and you're going to see them twice. So we already saw this with Illinois. Go try to take that road game and just get that out of the way in case you do end up splitting. But it'll be so interesting to get to that March 8th game, the regular season finale with Nebraska, Iowa here at Pinnacle Bank Arena, because you'll be going into the Big Ten tournament. Maybe there's a double bye on the line. Maybe there's a Big Ten championship on the line. But you have to start to get some of these that maybe you're not as favored in. You didn't get them in that triumphant of Michigan, Illinois, Purdue, but you're still in this top group of teams because these other teams are losing too. Maybe not Michigan as much. Well, they lost to Wisconsin earlier, and
they had a tough game against Northwestern too.
Yeah. So and they did the same thing where they pull away by 20 points in the second half. But it's can you go get one of these games that you're not like favored by to pull away by 19 points. Go take care of business against an Iowa team that, because of the coaching history and the players that are there, they can be kind of stupid dangerous. And you don't want to go in there and come out to a slow start like you did today, and especially like you did against Purdue.
And if you're expecting to see the Sanfords and McCaffreys of the world, oh boy, is it a different world in Iowa right now.
Yeah.
You watch that team and what a flip. And they're playing good offensively too, but they now play defense, which is weird given that they didn't used to really at all. Real quick, today's scores in the Big Ten: Michigan won 86-56 over UCLA this morning. That was a close game at halftime, Kaleb. Michigan outscored them by 30 in the second half.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Well, UCLA only scored 18. We thought Northwestern didn't score much. Northwestern scored 22. UCLA scored 18 in the second half. Mick Cronin's going to be mad. Big mad. Big mad. He had to go on the road all the way. It was at Michigan, too.
Oh, no.
Oregon's leading Penn State. Who cares? Purdue and Iowa was a 4:00 game. And then, of course, the game we've all been thinking about, Virginia at Ohio State. What on earth?
How did they get a non-con game in mid-February?
Virginia is playing Ohio State in Nashville. What is this? Thanksgiving? Feast week? Odd game there. So there you go. I think that's all we got. Kaleb, unless you have anything else you want to throw in before we finish this thing up.
No, just again, you've made a pattern of having some weird starts, some bad starts to some games, and you're going to be favored in all of them except this Tuesday at Iowa City. Next week, so 1 week from today, we're going to get the top 16 reveal from the NCAA tournament selection committee. The only other remaining, and yes, Nebraska plays Penn State next week, but that won't be part of it because they're actually going to meet, I think, like Tuesday to Thursday, and they'll do the mock selection, and the reveal will be next Saturday. you only get one more chance to impress the committee for this top 16 reveal, and it happens to be a really good road game for you for Nebraska. You go take care of business there. Well, whether or not you take care of business, you're going to see what the committee thinks of you. You're going to see what the committee thinks of your resume. And then we get to really start looking at, okay, the bracketologists say this, but here's from the committee themselves. The committee says Nebraska is a 2 seed. The committee says Nebraska is a low 3 seed. Wherever it is, we're going to know a lot more this next Saturday. Tuesday is definitely going to play a part into that for Nebraska, because if you roll into next week and you're sitting at 23-3 and your only losses are Michigan, Illinois, and Purdue,
interesting. You'll know a lot more about what the tournament picture looks like.
Yeah, it's are you a 2, are you a 3, wherever that is. We'll know next Saturday. We're only 1 week away.
And by the way, if you simulate out the Big Ten tournament simulator thingy that you can do, bball.notnothing.net, if you just give it the default results, they just use Torvik. They've got Nebraska. Well, they've got Nebraska not losing again because they ranked higher than all their opponents in Torvik. And if that happened, according to, and all the other rest of the results went according to chalk, Nebraska would be the 2 seed playing Illinois. Yes, at 8:00 on Friday night.
Oh, jeez.
No, I'm sorry. That'd be the second game. They would play. Yeah. They would play one of Oregon, Northwestern, Washington, or UCLA.
Yeah, give me Nebraska in that one, and then you get the third game against Illinois.
Yeah, unless Wisconsin knocks them, because right now somebody's going to have to face Wisconsin in that game, and that's why you want to stay out of the 3 and 4 seed right now.
Well, and here's what you get if you face Illinois a third time. You have to be separated by region, because Nebraska and Illinois are so close on where their seed line is most likely to end up. You can't. They'll separate it to where you can't see each other until the Elite Eight if you've played 3 times in the regular season.
Hey, that's fine with me.
So what comes from that is you start balancing out regions, move a team here, move a team there. You start to eliminate having Nebraska, Illinois in the same region for a fourth time, at least as you start to kind of space out where your tournament's going to go.
On Bracket Matrix, Nebraska is now a 3, the second 3. This thing's always a little out of date, but in between Kansas and Michigan State, that was probably mostly before Michigan State lost last night. And then top 8 are in order: Michigan, Arizona, Duke, Connecticut, Houston, Illinois, Iowa State, Purdue, and then you get to that Kansas-Nebraska group. So that would be the number 10 overall in that conglomeration. All right, I think that is it. Oh, one last thing, and then we will really actually go. Don't forget the I-80 Roadshow Dancing with the Skurs coming to an NCAA city, hopefully near you, hopefully not far away from you, hopefully near you, but wherever it is, Oklahoma City, St. Louis, Tampa, San Diego, Portland, Greenville, Buffalo, Philadelphia. I think there's always one I forget at the end. But in any case, going wherever. We're taking the whole show with us. We're taking Kaleb with us. We're taking Mike with us. We're taking Josh with us. We're going to all live in a house together. It's going to be like the real world. You're going to get vlogs. You're going to get exciting stories. You're going to get quick kernels. You're going to get unemployed. You're going to get Nebraska basketball or the Nebrasketball hour. You are going to get coffee shows. You're going to get, if we're in Oklahoma City, you're going to get late night hot tub shows in the Star Wars house. And so you want to be following us for that. Make sure you're liking our Facebook page. And if you want to be a sponsor, we're only looking for lower level sponsors now. If you want to be a community partner, we've had a bunch of folks join, a few, I should say, join. We would love a few more. Got to shout out Sandstone Wealth Management, Eye Surgical Associates, Sutton, Linder, and Sutton, all becoming our first group of community partners. We're looking for more. Also, if you're a company that wants to trade a rental van, call me. That's it. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. We'll watch some college basketball tonight and see what happens for the Huskers. That's it for the Nebrasketball Hour. See you next Tuesday night, late after Nebraska and Iowa. See ya.
Bye.